Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video we're going to be installing a backup camera on this 2006 Mazda 3. Now in this video we're going to show you how to get that camera mounted to the license plate area, run all the cables, and get it integrated to a pre-existing aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Alright, so let's take a closer look at this Boss Elite backup camera. This is a license plate mountable camera. Get this open here. Now with this camera specifically, it comes with a video wire. Now this RCA cable is going to carry the image from the camera itself and transfer it through this cable up to the radio. This will plug into the camera input on the back of the radio. Now you'll notice with this RC it also has these leads off. Now they're independent of the actual video side. These are just added inconvenience where it allows you to use this either to power the camera. You can pass the power wire through this camera to an accessory source back behind the radio to power the camera, or you can use this as a trigger wire where one end you'll tap into the positive wire on the reverse light and then the other end goes to the trigger wire back behind the radio. So multi-purpose here, just depends on your install. Comes with a power harness for the camera. Now here's our camera. This one mounts actually back behind the plate, and so the plate goes in front of it, and this is adjustable with these little Phillips screws here. Here we have our connections. So again, our video wire plugs in there, our power harness plugs in there. We need to power the camera and we need to send that signal up to the radio. So at this point of time, let's go ahead and prep our harness, and then we'll head over to the car to get this mounted. Now, we have this heat shrink that we'll put up and over those connections and shrink it down once we've made our connections and install the camera, just to protect it a little bit more. And looking closely at our camera here, so our camera power harness needs to go to power and ground. Now this camera has daytime LEDs on it, and so we don't want this camera running all the time because those LEDs then will be on all the time. So we're only going to wire this camera when we're in reverse. And so with that being said, we're going to connect our power and ground of our camera directly to the reverse light. So again, the camera's only going to be on when in reverse with those LEDs. So what we've done to prep that is we have stripped the covering off our power harness, and it has a red and a black wire. Now the red wire is going to be our power. The black wire is going to be ground for the camera, and we want our trigger wire to snag some of that power because we need to trigger the radio also to be in reverse. So we wired in that little red lead into the red wire of our camera. And so when we hook this up to the reverse light, not only is it going to power the camera, but through this wire, we're going to trigger the radio to go in reverse. Now on the other end of our wire, this one will plug into the radio input, camera input, and then this end will go to the trigger wire on the back of the radio. So let's start heading over. We're going to get everything taped up and shrunk, and we'll head over to the car to start getting this installed. Alright, so we got our camera all mounted there. Now we're going to jump up underneath the bumper cover to show you how we're running our cable. Alright, so up underneath here, this is where it comes into the bumper cover, and we've started split looming because it's going to be up in the weather. We did our heat shrink up and over those connections, and then we went over this bumper support, and we're going to feed it up and over the bumper support. It's going, if you can kind of see that, it's going to come down here, and we're going to go right to this grommet. And we've split loomed it. Now we want to stay away, as far away from the exhaust as possible. So we need to go to the top side of this grommet and pull it in so we can run our wire through that grommet hole. All right, so we're here in the trunk. Now we open up our jack compartment, pull out the jack, and there's the top side of that grommet. And we sliced a little hole just using a razor blade and fed our video wire and our power wire up through that grommet. And we continued our power wire. Ours was a little short, so we added a little bit of extra parallel wire, just a 22 gauge. And what we're going after is this wiring that goes up into the trunk. Now, we'll have power and ground here. We'll have power to the reverse light and ground for the reverse light in this harness that we're going to tap into using these wires. And essentially, this is going to both power the camera while in reverse, as well as provide a trigger for the radio. So at this point, we're going to show you the wires to tap into. Once we tapped into those, we have to continue running our video wire forward. We're gonna go along up underneath our trunk floor, all the way forward towards the radio. All right, so we identified our wires that we need to tap into. So this green wire is the positive wire to our reverse lights. So what we did is we just stripped the wire back without breaking the copper, and we wrapped our wire up and around it, and we're gonna solder onto that. And then there's gonna be a solid black wire right there. There's one with the red stripe we don't want. It's just the solid black wire, and that's gonna be our ground. So we're gonna solder onto those, wrap them in electrical tape, then we'll zip tie and clean up our wire and reassemble everything here in the trunk. All right, so we buttoned up our wire, got everything taped up nice, put a zip tie on there. At this point, we can continue running our wire. Now what we did down here, pull this back, and then you can pull up your cover here and run our wire up underneath that lip there, all the way forward. And we're gonna pick up from this end with the seat down to continue running it to the radio. All right, so we continued the wire, tucked it up underneath here, we're tucking it down. And at this point, we're out here. So what we need to do is continue tucking it forward. Now, this wire gauge is small enough, you can just tuck it up underneath this panel and probably be just fine. Continue running it forward. So we continue tucking our wire all the way up underneath. We continue tucked it up here. Comes out here, and then we zip tied it to this under dash support. Then we fish it up into the stereo cavity. Now, obviously here you didn't see us pull out the radio or go much into the radio detail itself, just because we already have a radio install video on the channel. Granted, it's only for a single DIN, but we will post the parts that we use for a double DIN in the description of this video in the event you want to do what we did here today. Okay, so since we have now fed our video wire up into the dash, just up from the kick panel here, this end's going to go to the camera input on the back of the radio, and this is going to be a trigger wire, so this has to go to the trigger wire in the radio's harness. Now, it may vary on color based on your radio. Ours happens to be purple-white. So we're going to tap this into that purple-white wire on the back of the radio, and we're going to get the radio reinstalled. Okay, let's do a little test to make sure everything's working before we reinstall all our screws. Okay, everything seems to be working great. Let's go ahead and reinstall our screws. That's about it for our install here today. If you have any questions on what we did here, post a comment below. Thanks guys for watching the channel. We appreciate your support. Be sure to hit the like button if you like what you saw, and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time, and we will see you in the next video.